Pastor Chira Show. I'm Pastor Chira, and today we launch. We launch into new mindset, we launch into new territory, we launch into new relationships. Are you ready to launch out today? Come on, let's go on this journey together. So, today we have a guest that is phenomenal, and we're going to be talking about something that not a lot of people like to talk about. Forget talk about it. Not a lot of people like to think about it. We don't even want to go there. But it's something that has been happening to all of us. It's something that happens every day. It's something that we all have to deal with. And that is death. And so in having to deal with this, there is also things that we also need to do. And that is prepare for it. Prepare ourselves, prepare our families, and prepare those our loved ones, those that we care about. And we're gonna dive into a conversation today about just that. And I have with me Qiana Rankins, who has her own business. She is someone who is delving into what all of this means. And I'm going to bring her in so she can introduce herself and we can start this conversation. Hey, Qiana, how are you today?
Hello, Pastor Chira. I'm great, and yourself?
I am awesome, and I thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining me to have this conversation, which isn't a conversation that a lot of people like to have, right? It's
I
not what
know.
we like to think about. We don't even want to deal with it. But even in our arenas, in the Christian world, right, in church, in let's not even go there. In life, we just have to
Yes,
deal with it,
yes.
right? It's just what we deal with. But before we dive into that, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to. I would love to. Again, thank you so much for having me. But hello, everyone. My name is Mrs. Qiana Rankins, and I am the funeral lady. So, am I an undertaker? No. Do I own a funeral home? No. I am the bridge between what happens after someone passes away, or if you begin to think about what you're going to do to secure your loved ones once you're gone, I'm your go to person. Or if your loved one has passed on and you have no idea where to begin and you have no idea who to call the funeral lady. I'll take care of everything that you need. The one thing that I have learned over the years, and I have about 15 years of funeral experience, is that no matter how long a person has been ill, a family is never ready. And so I like to be able to prepare families and then to guide families throughout that entire process. It sounds like something that a person probably wouldn't want to do because we want to talk about death and dying all the time. But honestly, it is the only thing I can guarantee about your life. I can't guarantee another thing about any aspect of anyone's life, but I can guarantee you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that one day you will need to make this appointment. And so, why not be prepared? Right? We
Mm,
buy car insurance, we buy home insurance, we buy insurance for your cell phone,
mm-hmm,
but you don't plan for what will happen to your family once you're gone, or
mm.
even what will happen just for your services, just with your remains themselves. And so I think because death is so scary, it's so unknown to so many people, it's just something that we just don't want to talk about. But it's the thing, one of the major things that we should all always talk about,
Wow.
no matter how young or how old.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. So, and you're right. It is the one appointment that we all have. Like, we are all going to make that appointment. We can't say what else is going to happen. We can't say that we're going to be rich. We can't say none of that stuff. But once you're
Nope.
born, you have an appointment to die. Like, that is what we
Yes.
know, right? We do know that.
Yes.
But what got you interested in this business, in this profession? Like,
Yeah.
what got you interested in this?
Yeah, the path was great. I didn't realize what was going on at the time, but over the years, I've always, in some capacity, had a leadership role when it came to assisting families with funeral arrangements only. And
Okay.
I realized in reaching out and being with those families how important that person is, that
Mhm.
key person who comes in and can take care of it, so to speak.
Mhm.
It is so devastating to lose mommy, to lose daddy, to bury a child.
Oof.
So
Yes.
devastating. And to know that you have an individual that's there for you, to comfort you, number one, but number two, to make sure everything works properly, everything is in order as it should be. When I realized the level of comfort that brings to other people, it brought about in me a supreme level of appreciation and dedication to this work itself. I have worked in funeral homes and
Okay.
I've done everything from picking up a body to dressing a body to doing the
Wow.
service to doing the cemetery to doing
Right.
the repast to
Right.
making sure we get paid after
Right.
everything is done.
Hello. Right. Right.
And so
Right.
I've
Yes.
had the opportunity to see every single aspect of what happens when a loved one passes away. And
Mhm.
so, me personally, I just find great personal satisfaction and fulfillment.
Okay.
Definitely, fulfillment is the
Mhm.
best word. When I can step in and be that person for a family. And then, alternatively, in the pre plan side, I also, because I am a lighthearted person and I do
Right.
like to bring levity to almost anything,
Everything.
um,
Right.
on the pre-plan side, I always just think that we make plans for everything.
Yes. Mhm.
We celebrate every birthday.
Mhm.
Let's make sure we take care of our death day. So everything else is important in our lives because we don't realize the impact that leaving your loved ones without a plan is going to have on your loved ones.
Ooh.
You don't want
Yeah.
to face it because
Mm-mm.
you don't want to talk about it because
Right.
it speaks to your mortality.
Right.
However, as a mom, I have two small children. I
Mhm.
would never want, in the midst of them mourning me, for them to also have to decide what to do with me. That's not
Right.
fair.
Right. And the thing about that is that so when this does happen, it's always that everything is so expeditious, right? So
Yes, it is.
literally from the time someone passes until like you have like the services and everything is done, it's usually like what,
Yep.
a 7 day turnaround, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go from a regular Joe Schmo to a supreme party planner in 7 days. And that's what you ultimately are. You're
Yes.
arranging caterers, you're arranging transportation, you're arranging flowers. Like
Yes.
you turn into a party planner overnight. That
Yes.
is in the midst of being grieved.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's
Yes.
outrageous. It's
It's
it's unfair, and so
mhm.
it's not fair. And I've seen it so many times. Families not being prepared, and then again, it's like mom died. What next?
Right.
And so to know, just call the funeral lady. She'll take care of everything. I can't deal with this. I'm going to bed. Because quite frankly, if a close loved one to me, like in my close immediate family, passes away, even me, even the funeral
Yes.
lady, I'm
Yep.
going to ball up in the corner for a little while. You deserve to grieve,
Yes.
right? But you don't deserve to grieve with added stress that could
Mhm.
have been alleviated. Now, again, there are times where things happen. You're in a major car crash, but no matter how you pass away, if once you reach a certain age of maturity, I would say around 2021, you
Mhm.
should really start to think about the fact that, okay, my life is now my responsibility. And
Yes.
everything that goes along with that is my responsibility. And
Right.
so you begin to put those plans in order because you don't want to put that burden onto your family. It's just not fair.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. And it's not fair. And even in this in this preparation process and even with what we're coming out of, and we're not even really coming out of, like a little bit earlier, we were like, so we're still in a whole pandemic, a whole global pandemic, right? And
Yes.
things are still happening every day. And we're not saying that everyone is dying from, COVID, because like we said
COVID.
in the beginning, we all have disappointment. However it happens, whatever the case may be, it's going to happen. What do you find are the biggest barriers with having these conversations with individuals?
So I really find that the reason why these conversations are so difficult to have is number one, who wants to talk about dying? Right. So we think that we're immortal. We think we're not going to pass away. We think, oh, I've got 50 more years. I got 70 more years to worry about that. I want to live my life and have a great time,
Right,
and I'll let
right.
somebody else deal with it. And so that's one reason why these
Mm.
conversations are hard. It's just like if you go to a conference, right, and you
Mm-hmm.
look at the list of all the things that are going to happen, and you see all the seminars, the one about dying and death, nobody wants to go to that one. And that's
Nobody.
because I'm like, I don't want to think about that.
Right.
But if you really, really think about, the fact that you really have this responsibility
Mm.
towards your
Wow.
everything else you're responsible for, I think that it would help us be able to broach that conversation a little bit differently. I keep trying to think about different ways to phrase the whole funeral conversation so it doesn't sound so funerally.
Right, right.
Because, you know what I mean? Because I mean, you go to buy a car, you have a pleasant conversation with the car guy. You go to the
Right.
market, you have a pleasant conversation with the meat guy.
Mm-hmm.
Come see the funeral lady. We can have a pleasant conversation about your funeral
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to do as it relates to what's going to happen to you once you pass away. And so the fear again is, the immortality, and then
Right.
two, people just think that I don't have to talk about that right now. It's not happening, so we kind of put it
For
off.
sure. You know what? But I think you made a great point about the responsibility part. Like, we put what happens to us on somebody else. And is that really fair? Is that responsible? Is that fair to put
Yeah,
what happens to us when we're not here anymore on somebody else? Like, I
yeah,
think that's a really, really good point. Like, let's take responsibility for our entire life, including
exactly,
death, including the
exactly.
death part. That
Hmm.
was an excellent point, and right now we're gonna take a short break, and on the other side we're gonna talk about how we prepare for that other part. So y'all stay tuned, and we'll right back. We be right back right after this commercial break.
You can join us virtually or at the church, located at 458 East Rittenhouse Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Welcome back. So we're having this conversation with Mrs. Qiana Rankins in regard to, oops, I'm sorry, the funeral lady. Yes. So we're having this conversation with the funeral lady in
Really.
regards to how we prepare for our entire life. And I think you made, like I said right before the commercial break, it was a great point in regards to us being responsible and taking the responsibility of our entire life, including death, especially when we become of responsible age, right?
Hmm.
So, what are some of the steps that need to be taken in order to do and start this preparation process?
Right. So I really feel like with any major decision that you make, it all starts with your mindset, right? So
Ooh,
like if I decide I want to buy a
yes.
house, then I'll change my mind and I'll start changing the way I spend my money. I'll start saving money. It changes the way I think. Or if I decide to lose weight, I have to start thinking like, okay, I can't have cookies, cakes, and snacks anymore. And then you change your mindset, and all of a sudden it just becomes natural, and you
Mm-hmm.
begin to eat healthy, right? The one thing I've noticed is that in a westernized society, we really do place the singularity into figuring out, oh, somebody died, what are they going to do? In other cultures, death is a large part of their life.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
the culmination of a life well lived, and
Yes.
it is celebrated in a way that makes it almost exciting to be there. If you look at other death rituals, if you look at other cultures, death, their funerals, you'll see that it is way different than kind of how we handle things.
Yeah.
So the first thing is going to be changing your mind. The second thing is going to be changing the way that you view
Mm.
passing away, right?
Yes.
So if you can start to understand, this is a celebration of a life well lived. This is so that my family and my friends can remember me in a way that is going to be impactful to them.
Right.
So once you start to think like that, and then the last piece, of course, is that responsibility piece.
Yeah.
You cannot force a person into responsibility. I
You
think you know
can't.
that very
You
well.
can't. You can't.
You just have
We
to be
can.
ready. They just have to be ready to be
Yes.
responsible. But
Yes.
and then even in that responsibility comes in degrees, right? So
Yeah.
maybe you're getting responsible on big things. You
Mm-hmm.
may still not do little small things, but the insurance is paid, the lights are on, the gas is on.
Mm-hmm.
So in that vein, you really want to make space for what's going to happen when you pass away. And so that's why I think that pre-planning is way more important than having your brothers and sisters sit at the dining room table and try to put your obituary together. If you can take
which
care of that yourself,
which should have already been written in the meantime, right? Because who knows your
absolutely.
life better than you? Who can write your life better than you can? Who can write your I'm
Exactly.
sorry, did I cut you off? Go ahead, lady, keep
It's
talking.
fine. It's true. And you go to families' homes at, during that little 7-day period we talked about where they
Mm-hmm.
become professional party planners, and you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there with them and like, what high school did she go to? Did she work for the city for
Yes.
the last 10 years? Or
You're
did she
right.
work at the bank? And so like all these little things is trauma. This is
Yes.
trauma for
Mm-hmm.
your family. This is trauma. They have to relive
Yes.
these things.
Yes.
You can make it so much easier on them,
Yourself.
if you would
Mm-hmm.
just take the time,
Mm-hmm.
be responsible, change the way you view your death, and know that it is a responsibility to life to take care of your death. I
Yes.
think that would really, really help a lot of people. And then again, having somebody, like me to liaise, also takes a lot of pressure off of your family as well.
It does, and that is,
Yeah,
and that's really a part of really showing love, right? And
yeah.
to your family that is left. Like if we want to really show them that we really love them, am I saying this right? I think I am.
That's right.
Then
You are.
we do things to take some of the pressure off, right? Like this is what we do. Even Christ said, "I go to prepare a place for you." He prepared us, telling us that He's going to prepare. So I'm leaving you. If I'm going to prepare someone somewhere for you, then I need you to prepare where you are so that when you come to where I am, it's prepared. What you left is prepared, and where you're coming is prepared, right? Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. Am I talking about, we're talking to my dad and we're talking to him about his stuff and getting his stuff in
Mm-hmm.
place and having his plan in place. But God forbid I could go before him. And then, did I love my family enough to have something
Yeah.
prepared?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of selfish when we don't
It
do
is.
that, right? Talk to that a little
Right.
bit.
Well, see, and again, that just goes back to not wanting to think about it. So, just like you were saying, that you want to make sure that you're responsible towards your family, that you hook them up, you set them up so they wouldn't have to do this. If you thought about it that way, everybody would make sure they took care of it. But because we don't think about it that way, we don't think about what it does to our families when we are the ones that have passed away, then it
Mm-hmm.
makes it easy for us to kind of sweep it under the carpet. Those of us that have, jobs where life insurance is offered,
Right.
a lot of times we think that, oh, I'm good. I have life insurance at my job. But we all know in this time that your job could leave tomorrow. And
That's
with
right.
that leaves that life insurance.
That's
And
right.
so, especially we've seen people who've worked their whole lives and have depended on their life insurance at work, and then they retire and don't have a life insurance policy
Yes.
because they've been banking on the one at work so long. That ends when your employment ends. So
That's right.
unless you die while you're working, while you're employed,
Right.
you don't have insurance,
Mm-mm.
right?
Right.
So now you're going to leave your family to kind of trying to figure out, what to do. Can we find cheaper? So now you're like bargain basement funeral, with your
Mm-hmm.
funeral. And so you don't want that. You want to be able to take control of that. And so we've got some concrete ways that you can do that, going from the easiest way, which is just to sit down and have a conversation and write things out, to a complete plan where you get an insurance policy dedicated solely to your burial funds
So I'm gonna
and
I'm
everything in
gonna throw
between.
you I'm gonna throw you a couple questions that I think would be like the top of the list, right?
Yeah,
So we can like let's just do this real quick. So
yeah.
do I have to have a set funeral home in mind in order to put a plan in place?
No, you do not. So, if you go the route of an insurance company or opening up a burial fund, because banks do offer burial funds,
Oh, okay.
or just a regular savings account that is dedicated or earmarked for your final arrangements. Your family or you could choose whatever funeral home that you like. Now, some funeral homes also have the option where you can walk in and pre-plan with them. And
Mm-hmm.
so the question becomes, well, what happens if I outlive the funeral home? You know what I mean? Because
Right.
that could happen, right?
Yeah.
So every funeral home is mandated by the state that if they have any pre-planned contracts in place, they must be forwarded on to another reputable funeral home. And
Okay.
so that funeral home designates what's going to be their proxy funeral home in case this doesn't work out. All right.
Okay.
So when you first think about it, you don't have to choose a funeral home. Um, you can go ahead and do it through a bank, do it through your savings account, do it through an insurance policy, and you don't have to choose a funeral home quite yet. If you
Okay.
do it through the funeral home, it means you like those guys and you want those guys to take care of you. And so I'm going to pay directly to that funeral home. But
Okay.
if something happens in the interim, then you can go ahead. They will take care of transferring that money to another funeral home.
Okay. So next question. Do I have to have um, a cemetery in place as well? Is that something that I have to do as part of this, or is like how is that handled as part of this process?
Yes, so this is one of the most exciting parts of the business for me.
Exciting.
You see me, I got totally
Yeah.
excited because now in 2021, there are so many incredible things you can do with your loved one's remains,
Hmm.
that for me, my last option would be the cemetery. Like, I know that
Oh
that is like our
wow.
traditional way,
Right.
to lay people out. Let me answer your question first. So one of the largest expenses with the funeral is the cemetery. It's opening up the
Yes, it is.
ground and getting that plot, right? So if
Yep.
anybody has experienced this already in your life, you already know it's a situation at the cemetery.
A whole
So
situation. Hmm.
as part of your pre-plan, I would definitely, if you want to be buried that way, take care of my plot. And you can go to any cemetery, and just like you can put your funeral on layaway at the funeral home, you can put your plot on layaway too.
Right.
Especially if you want to be in a special section, you know what I mean, of any particular cemetery, or you saw one that was really beautiful and you want to be there and your
Hmm.
family didn't know it, you can definitely go there and purchase a plot. You don't have to, but I strongly suggest, if that's the way you want your remains to be taken care of, that you make that your priority as well.
So, next question. So, I live in this area, right? And you're in that area. So, as the funeral lady here in the
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia area, could you handle and work with me, someone who is in California or Detroit or Chicago? How can you work with me not being in close proximity to you?
Yep. So, as of last March 2020, um, when we all got sequestered to our homes,
Uh-huh.
things have changed dramatically at how we do business, and so Zoom calls, Skype calls, these have become the way that we basically do business. And so if anyone was out of my personal reach, of course, I would take care of everything via Zoom call, on the phone, on the computer, making sure that everything is covered. A lot of these things are conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you have that contact person that's going to answer their phone
Mm-hmm.
and are going to take care of everything that you need, and and you trust them. So, usually in my first conversation with a person, I don't really like to talk about the deceased. I type a regular conversation because I want you to know I'm your girl. I'm the funeral lady. You can
Right.
trust me. We can talk about anything. You know what I mean? And then once you gain that trust, then we can begin those conversations. So you being far away, you could be as close to me as you want, or as far away as you need to be, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll still be the same level of concern and care.
I so appreciate all of this information that you have given us. There is so much more that we could talk about. There is so much more
Yes.
information that that we can glean from you. So, in the meantime, how can we reach out to you? How can we be in touch with you to get your services?
Absolutely. So, first off, of course, you can always call me. That's always going to be the best thing to do, only because
Right.
I really like to have that personal connection and conversation.
Mhm.
And so, our business phone is 267-281-2212. If
Okay.
you would like, you can also email us at thefunerallady@gmail.com. That's
Awesome.
the funeral lady. Lady spelled Ladie, not
Okay.
Lady. So you
Okay.
can email us at thefunerallady.com, and we will return your questions as quickly as possible. And then finally, you can visit our Facebook page. The Funeral
Awesome.
Lady is also on Facebook. So you can reach out to us in any one of those mediums, and we will respond to you probably within the hour, only because death is so quick. We have to always make sure that we jump right on those
Right on
calls,
it.
which we
Right on
do,
it.
which we do.
Lady, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking this time. I appreciate all of this information. This was a wealth of information that, oh my gosh.
Yes.
And you, like the conversation, as everyone can see, it's easy to have this conversation with you to make sure that we put our stuff in place. I thank you so much for joining us here on the Pastor Chira Show. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your service. And seems like I need to make a phone call. So I'm going to be in
You
touch.
should probably call me.
I hope everyone
Thank you.
enjoyed this show on today. The information is incredible, and I thank you all for joining us. Please, God, He tells us, like He goes to prepare a place for us. We need to be prepared to get to that place, right? We all have this appointment. We're all going to meet this appointment. Let's be prepared and let's have everything in place for our families when this appointment comes. We don't know when. We don't know the day nor the hour, but we still need to be prepared for that day and that hour. I'm Pastor Chira, and this was the Pastor Chira Show. Until next time, God bless you.